hey, you know what? We're not going to cut spending and forget that was the law and forget Obama signed off on it and forget everybody voted for it. They don't like it, so that's on the way out. Speaking of sequester and some of the economic nonsense that's going on, joining us now is Kris Weaver, the president of the Kris Weaver Real Estate Team. Kris Weaver, our number one economic and real estate guru here on the John Frederick Show, and his firm, the Kris Weaver Real Estate Team, a top 100 Wall Street Journal firm in the United States. Kris, great to have you with us.
Great to have me on the show. Thank you, John.
Obama, in his State of the Union Tuesday night, he says, there's a thriving middle class and everything is good. He wants to spend more money that we don't have and add some taxes. And then when he's done with that, add some other taxes. And when he's done with that, close the loopholes to add some other taxes. But he doesn't like sequester. Well, what did you make of this whole thing?
That he wants to continue to spend us into oblivion. Unfortunately, he has access to extremely low-rate money due to the financial crisis that we just went through. The yields on the treasuries are at all-time lows right now. So money is cheap. And then the other interesting fact, too, is the bid cover call ratio on our debt is really high. There's almost 7 times as many buyers as we have debt available at last check. So it's very, very easy for us generally to sell our treasuries out on the market. So credit's easy. It's a lot like back in 2005, 2006 during the housing boom when you could be unemployed and buy a $1 million home and pay 1% only on the principal.
So today Obama went to Atlanta trying to sell this plan. There's a lot of hand-wringing, Kris, over sequestration and the fact that if that goes down as planned, that, they're going to cut spending, but basically what they're saying, what Obama's saying, and what both sides of the aisle are saying on Capitol Hill now is, hey, this is the wrong way to do it. It's going to further hurt the economy. Do you think that's true?
Well, unfortunately, both directions are true. I've been doing some thinking, and I think the only way to kind of get us out of this and put us on the right direction is to educate the populace. Most of what Obama said during the State of the Union sounds great on paper, but it only takes maybe 1, 2, 3 steps in thought to understand that, for instance, an increase in minimum wage that actually is going to hurt the middle class a lot because that'll have a high impact on their products and goods and services, which will lead to a lot of inflation. I don't know about you, but if you make $400,000 a year, a little inflation, no big deal. If you make $50,000 a year and you see the prices of your goods and services increase by 5 or 10%, and you're already living on a shoestring budget, that's going to hit really hard. You combine that with the increases that we have in spending and debt, and once those rates start to rise, you're going to see increasing costs there too.
Kris, I want to get your opinion on something, because one of the reasons we love to have you on the show is because you give a very outside of the beltway view on what's going on. Do you think that people are so accustomed to turning on the TV and hearing about the economy and hearing about the debt and hearing about the 17 trillion and hearing the battles that go back and forth between Obama and Boehner, the government's going to shut down? Do you think people have become somewhat callous to that and now they kind of tune it out?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I think in the past, there's been a lot of talk on television about spending, about various political issues going on. And at those times, while they were bad and they were definitely not something that would lead our country in the right direction, they really weren't going to bring us to the brink of economic failure. Now with what we have going on, let me give you a really quick comparison. We have about $16 trillion of debt. Let's bring this down to the personal level. Imagine you're, unfortunately, one of the Americans with a high debt load. You owe money on all your credit cards. You're making minimum payments. Imagine if your interest rate on your credit cards increased by 4-fold. So let's say you were paying 15%. All of a sudden, you're paying 60%. Would that be a shock to your monthly budget?
Obviously, it would be catastrophic. I mean, I'm speechless.
Right. Well, the same thing is going to happen with our debt. Right now, I think the average rate we're paying on debt is, quote me if I'm wrong, it's about 1.5%.
Yes.
That's really on the 10-year, but, you know, if you take the 1 year, 2 year, it is lower. Well, interest rates historically on a 10-year, I believe, are closer to 4.5% to 6%. Okay, you can do the easy math there. It's a fourfold increase in interest. Currently, I believe our debt service is about 67% of our GDP.
Right.
When we return to normal interest rates, it's going to be 28% of our GDP. In fact, it's going to be when you look at our budget, when you look at the non-defense category, the defense category, social programs, and everything, it's going to be the largest category, interest.
So basically, what you're saying is, if interest rates, which we all know are artificially being held down now by the actions of the Federal Reserve. So it's basically they're manipulating the interest rate down below true market rates. If that were to just go away and interest rates today were to rise to what we think they would be if it was simply up to the market without the Fed's involvement, then the interest on the debt basically would overwhelm our nation's GDP. It would be over almost 30% of every dollar that comes in would go towards the debt, right?
Well, you know, I don't really think there's black helicopter stuff going on with our interest rates, John. What's happening is, you know, we're just the lesser of evils out there in the world when it comes to the security of the debt that can be bought out there on the market. Of course, the Federal Reserve is buying much of our debt. But what's driving it, when I was going back to the bid cover ratios, there's a lot of demand for our debt right now. And that's because when you look at the spectrum of what's available out there, our debt is the safest. So that's creating the low rates and the low yields. But, you know, when the economy starts to turn around, wherever it might be in the world, it could be here, it could be, I don't think it's going to happen right away, but it could be Europe. If it turned around in Europe quickly, well, that's going to be a more secure environment, and money is going to chase that debt. And in order to be competitive, we'll have to increase the yield of our debt. So it's not really there's definitely some manipulation going on, but it's not to the extent that it's you know, kind of covert. It's normal market operations, but things will change. The economy will at some point improve, and interest rates are going to increase. And you're correct. We are, you know, we were just talking about sequester. We're robbing Peter to pay Paul. You know, we're essentially keeping the social programs alive, more or less untouched at the very moment. And the way we're doing is we're just stealing from the Defense Department category. In fact, if you look at the text in the bill that was passed on January 1st, that's exactly what we're doing. I mean, there's no smoke and mirrors about it. We're taking from defense, and then we're giving it to, you know, welfare and food stamps and Social Security and everything else, social programs. And that's what we're doing just to make the points connect together. Imagine if our cost, you know, our overall cost to operate the government increased 20%. And that's what I'm talking about here when the interest rates do increase. So we need to do something, and we need to do it soon.
Well, you know what? We don't seem to be getting a lot done right now. We're with Kris Weaver. He's the president of the Kris Weaver Real Estate Team, a top 100 real estate team in the United States, named by the Wall Street Journal. Common Sense News Time coming up on 8:53. This is the John Frederick Show. Now, Kris, another thing that President Obama called for on Tuesday night, an increase in the minimum wage to $9. That represents about a sizable increase over what it is now. We had a 3rd District Democratic Congressman Bobby Scott on our show yesterday. Now, the 3rd District of Virginia, Representative Scott, a Democrat, represents in the state of Virginia one of the highest areas of young black unemployment, black males over 25 in District 3. Their unemployment rate nearly 30%. Our question to the congressman was, why are you in favor of this? Because if you look at any economic statistics, it's going to tell you that the unemployment of young blacks under 25, which is now approaching 30%, you increase the minimum wage, it's going to go up. Why would you be in favor of that?
Well, here's the problem. It boils down to education, and I don't mean just at an impoverished level. I mean society as a whole. Presidential Obama, he can do what he wants because it's popular. On the surface, increasing minimum wage sounds fantastic. Hey, families get more money. There's more money in the economy to spend. But you only have to take it one or two steps in, just like you were mentioning, to understand that employers are going to have to do more with less. They're going to have to slightly cut their staff. When they and for the people that they do keep, they're going to have to pass along the cost of their balance sheet in increased prices, which is directly going to impact the middle class. So there's only a finite amount of money when you're talking what's available to pay minimum wage workers. So you can have it go to several people, or you can have it go to fewer people. And of course, if you have it go to fewer people, where are they going to turn to, John?
Obviously, they're going to turn. They're going to turn to the government. They're going to look for more entitlements. That's really the issue, isn't it?
Right. So, it really boils down to. Most of what was in the speech that is, can be a problem for us, can be countered with some very, very simple education. The problem is we spend our money, elsewhere as far as making the public aware. We run the typical political ads that we do, and we really don't get people to understand the why behind what people are trying to change, and that's really the problem. So the people in power can continue to do what's popular, even though it might be a detriment to the economy, and kind of do it unscathed, and that's the problem that we're having here.
Yeah, and it's very tough to navigate your way through, because as bad as the economy has been, and as bad as unemployment has been, and as bad as the debt is, President Obama got reelected in his mind a mandate and an electoral college landslide. So in his mind, it's like, hey, you know what? We've already gone down that path, and obviously there's a majority of U.S. Voters that are fine with it. So he's continuing on, and he's in the perpetual campaign. Hey, Kris, we're almost out of time. For our listeners that want more information on your firm, they're looking to buy a home, sell a home, rent, lease, get in or out of the market, or get financing, where do they go?
Well, John, the Wall Street Journal ranks us as one of the top 100 real estate teams among the 1.2 million agents here in the United States. They can reach us anytime, 757-340-5555, or visit us online, www.krisweaver.com. That's Kris with a K, K-R-I-S Weaver.com.
Thank you, Kris. Have a great weekend. We appreciate the insight as always.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks, Kris.